Good afternoon, sir. I want to ask about two questions. First of all, about the publication that from engineering subjects that you give me from Indonesia. Yes, thank you. Okay, I want to ask about the what happened. What happened that the impact factor of engineering subjects in academic publishing in Indonesia is becoming like very low like that. Do you know why it happened? Is it because the paper, or is it because the development of industry in Indonesia? And the second question is about. I'm sorry. First of all, I'm very new about for this academic publishing. I'm a student, final year student. I want to ask you about. Do you know that some universities have their annual conference, like maybe in Indonesia of University of Indonesia they have international conference of engineering, chemical engineering, something like that. And when we students can we can publish we can submit the papers in the event and next if we get selected, we can be published. Our paper will be published in their proceeding. My question is actually, what is the position of that kind of publishing? Is it the same with the academic publishing that you explained? And then how is the impact factor? I mean, as a student that published in the that have paper in that published in the proceeding like that, is it is the impact factor of that paper will be if the impact factor of that paper will be affecting our research for the next like that? Thank you very much.
Right, I'll start with the second question. As a student, it's important to build up a track record of work in a certain area so that people get to know you and know what you've been doing. So it is helpful at your level to publish your work in conference proceedings like the ones you've been mentioning. It is unlikely, however, that that particular publication has a journal impact factor. The journal impact factor is a metric that's managed by this company called, now called Clarivate Analytics, and they only index a fraction of all the journals out there. And so these journals have to have an international distribution, etc., etc. So it's unlikely that the proceedings of an Indonesian engineering conference will have an impact factor. So in that sense, you don't get credit for an impact factor, but by publishing your articles in conference proceedings, that shows that you're active in the field and you're building up a track record. So that is good. That is a good thing. Now, the other question is why. You have lots of output in engineering, but you have a very small citation rate. This is a good question. I was just looking in my presenter notes, but I don't have a good answer for this, to be honest. It might well be that the difference here, particularly, and also computer science is the same thing. These are very much applied disciplines, right? While some of the other disciplines are much more basic science. And basic science tends to go out internationally and they get lots of citations from international scientists. Perhaps if you have more applied publications, they might be used in a different way but not cited. Right? They could be used, the results in these publications could be used for patent applications, for instance, right? But not necessarily cited in another scientific article. So I think that may be part of the problem. But that's just a guess at this point.
Thank you very much.
Do we have any other questions?
Hello, I'm Leah. I work normally for international communications at Binus, and I'm also tasked with research. That said, that would be my first research paper to write this year. I'm not actually sure whether you're aware, but most of us need to write one research paper annually. So the question here is, where would a very new person in research actually start?
That's a very
Is it conference proceedings or is it journals?
Which field is this?
Excuse me?
Which field? What is your subject area?
Communications or global studies?
Right. I think in your area, as far as I know, conference proceedings are not peer-reviewed, or they don't count as peer-reviewed articles. Let me say that. They may be peer-reviewed, but they don't count as peer-reviewed articles. So you would probably be looking at regular journal papers. Yeah, where do you get started? Well, you need to start with the hypothesis, right? The research question you want to address, and then work through it until you get a final, well-justified answer. That's the research process, and I would write that up. I would check what's been done in your area, you know, perhaps internationally, and then find your niche and write your article in that niche area and submit it to a regular journal.
How much time does it normally take when you start from the first paper that you write to when you're published the first time? What was the experience like for you?
You mean how much time does it take to do the research?
No, to publish your first paper. If you go back to the beginning of your research career, what was the feeling like and the process?
Right. Well, my first paper, I started. I collected enough data and did the analysis, and for the first paper, it took about 2 years, I think, to complete the analysis. And then I wrote it up, submitted it to a journal, and I never got the referees report. So that is a bad example. In the end, the editor actually himself reviewed it. In my field, we tend to have one referee only. So the editor actually reviewed the paper, and he had very few comments, so it was accepted shortly afterwards. But the whole process took about 2.5 years at that point. It is more normal that once you've collected the data, you do your analysis, and you submit, and then the writing of a paper might take, well, these days when I have something new and I want to write a paper, it takes between 1 and 2 months, the actual writing process. That's a different workshop, actually, how to write a paper. But so you've populated all the fields in your paper, an abstract, introduction, methods, results, analysis, discussion, conclusions. You've written all of that. And then you submit it to a journal. It gets assessed by the editor if it's suitable for the journal. If so, within about a week or two, it gets passed on to subject editors who will then find reviewers. Now, finding a reviewer for a regular journal may take 1 or 2 weeks because many people say no, we're too busy, we don't have the time, blah blah blah. And then usually within about a month, we expect the reviews to come back. As I said, usually the reviews come in on the day of the reminder, sometimes a week after the deadline. So, and then you get your referees reports. So from the time you started writing until your referees reports, we're talking maybe 2 to 3 months. Let's say 3 months. Then, of course, the referees will always come back with suggestions for improvement. Hopefully, you've done a good job, so the improvements requested are not so serious. But that might take you another couple of weeks to do the improvement. You send it back to the journal. The editor looks at it. He or she may send it on to the reviewers again. So that's another cycle. But that second cycle should go faster, right? Because the reviewers just have to look at how you make the changes, etc. So, and then it hopefully gets accepted. So from starting to write until acceptance, let's say 4 months, give or take a month maybe, and then the actual appearing online might take another one.
Okay, and the last question, I will use the opportunity. Now we were talking about publishing in the open access and fees related to that. What is an average fee actually to publish in, or is the range very wide?
I think there's a huge range. I've seen fees ranging from, I don't know, $1,500 US dollars up to $4,000 or $5,000 for a paper, so that's a range. Now, in the traditional journals, I can say something about the journal that I work for. We are traditional, but we charge page charges, publication charges, because it costs money to run a journal. Our page charges are based on the number of words. Number of words, number of tables, number of figures, things like that. Usually when I publish a 10 to 15 page paper in the the astrophysical journal, I pay between $1,000 and $1,500. So traditional journals tend to be somewhat cheaper than open access journals. That's my point. But so those are generic numbers. If you're from a developing country and you don't have access to research funds, or not many research funds, you can always ask the editor if you can get a full or a partial fee waiver. And many editors are open to that. And so it doesn't hurt to ask. If you say, look, I'm from Indonesia, we don't have much funding, is it possible to get a fee waiver? You can always ask. You have no, and if you get yes, then you get a discount, right? So this is a good thing that you can ask as well. I hope that answered your question.